Hey, it's Joe West from the West Barn. We're back with episode 2 of our 2-part featured episode with Gregg Vizza, a studio designer who's helping all of us get any room tuned in to be a mix room, from a garage build to your spare bedroom. Check it out. Hope you enjoy it. So let's say you haven't even listened yet. You got your monitors and you're set up in the most logical spot in the room. You've got this diffuser directly behind you. Now what do?
The sidewalls?
I would think, right? Right, the listening
ceiling.
position sidewalls.
Well, you know what? If you carpet the floor, you've solved some of the standing wave issues on the Z-axis. But you still have comb filtering from early reflections off the ceiling that are out of time with your.
All right, hold up. Early reflections. Tell them what that is.
Okay, so a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. So the sound from your speakers are going to hit you first. And then if the sound bounces off the ceiling and back down to you, it's going to be a few milliseconds delayed. And you know what happens when you mix a few milliseconds delay in with your original signal, you get a comb filter. That's that flangey, phasey sound that you would get out of a digital delay if you cranked it way down to, 8 milliseconds or 10 milliseconds. So you have that still, but you got rid of the standing wave, which is that racquetball chord,
Mm-hmm.
So carpeting is, I would say, is a must. And then maybe you can deal with that little bit of phase, comb filter off the ceiling. You're going to have it off the sidewalls as well if you don't deal with it.
So when does it cease being an early reflection?
30 milliseconds.
Okay, important to know here, people. Early reflections, for instance, in correct me if I'm wrong, sound travels at 740 or 760 miles an hour. When you do all the finite math, it ends up to be about a millisecond. A foot a millisecond.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I'm sitting here and I've got a wall to my 4 foot to my right, I'll hear the signal in my speakers 2 foot from my head. 2 milliseconds later, I'll hear it from the speaker. Right. Then it leaves here. It goes 4 foot to the wall and 4 foot back from the wall to my ear.
That's 8 feet.
8. Yeah. Well, 4 to the wall.
But minus the distance from your speaker to you. You've got 3 calculations to do. Distance from speaker to wall.
Right.
Distance from wall to you minus the distance of the speaker to you.
Okay.
Because the sound that hit you was delayed from the speaker, the 2 milliseconds from the speaker to you. So when you first heard the sound from your speaker versus when you hear the sound from the wall.
Okay.
So you didn't hear the sound from the speaker when the speaker produced it. You heard it when it got to you. So you got to minus.
I totally get it. I totally get it. Because it takes time for you look at sound coming at you like water, a wave on a beach. The first wave takes, let's say, 2 milliseconds to get to me, right? It leaves the speaker. It goes 4 milliseconds to the wall and 4 to me. So that's 8 minus 2. So yes. I will have 6 milliseconds. I hear it from the speaker. At 6 milliseconds, I hear it from the wall. Why is that important? Well, because anything that your brain perceives as early reflections is original signal. It's not reverb.
Right.
So now as an audio engineer, mix engineer, you're saying, man, my snare is so bright. Well, if you're hearing it off that wall will deem whether it's how bright it is to you. So you need to say, hey, I need to take into, in my listening environment, I need to take into consideration that the early reflections will make EQ decisions for me. So I need to be careful about what my ear is hearing and making sure I'm hearing the right reference period. When you're in the recording date, it also works that way, but it's encapsulated in the recording. So your snare drum, if you're in a drywall room, will have more energy in it because the other reflections get back to that mic too and make it brighter. And the snare is actually brighter for being in that bright room. Right. See, but in our listening environment, we don't want that.
In a recording room, in a live room, you're using the space for effects.
Right.
the last thing you want in a critical listening room is effects. You know, you want to
Right.
hear pure.
So
You know,
because, hey, all that stuff is embedded into the recording. Everybody gets it, but not everybody will get your room.
right.
So you need to be careful with early reflection. So we've dealt with the room, putting ourselves in the right spot. We've dealt with hopefully having carpeting on the floor. We've dealt with diffusion in the rear. Now we're saying, let's deal with the left and right walls, and let's try to make sure that those early reflections don't cause us to make bad decisions that everyone else isn't going to. It would be, if your room was where everybody was listening, it'd be totally fine, because that would be a controlled, that would be encapsulated in the listening experience. So now what do we do with those side walls? Do we point them? Do we diffuse them? Do we absorb them? We've already determined that we don't want a brick wall on one side and a carpeted wall on the other, right? We want those to be equal.
The least expensive, no, I can't really say that. The least labor intensive would be to absorb them. It would be just as inexpensive to reflect them properly, but a little more labor intensive. You need to angle that wall so that the reflection off the speaker doesn't reflect back to the listening position. It reflects to the diffusers in the back of the room. That's the best situation, because you didn't suck the energy out of the room. You sent it to the diffusers, which turn it into just beautiful air that's nondescript and doesn't become part of your mix decisions, but keeps the room lively so that you don't overcompensate with EQ. Not only would you add more reverb, you would brighten your mix too, because when the energy's sucked out of the room, it seems dull. So you're going to keep...
Right. That's the risk they run by just putting padding all around their listening environment, is that the energy feels dead, so they crank high end to make it alive.
You're going to make a very thin recording and harsh. It's going to hurt
when
people.
we're talking about, when you said there's three ways to treat your room, there's reflection, there's diffusion, there's absorption.
You need all three. All three.
So when we're talking about lasers, let's say your two tweeters on your two left and right are lasers, and they're pointed right as an isosceles triangle right to your ears, ideally, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those high end, the tweeters are blowing sound everywhere. So now you got to think about the math of all the matrix. If you could turn it into a laser light show and see where all that sound was scattering and how it was hitting back, you want to deal with the lasers that would be pointing right back to your ears. So on your left and right, you'd want to essentially take the walls, and they're straight. Let me try to get them straight in the monitor. And you want to say, hey, let me put something inside that wall that does, and it points the audio that would be bouncing back to your ears. Now it would go back, hit that, and ideally, if you had a laser and a mirror on that surface, it would direct that laser into the diffuser. Yes?
So if you don't want to do this in CAD or on paper with protractors, you can do it right in the room. If you just go, what's those art stores like Michael's, or there's another one, I forget the names of the art stores. You can buy little square mirrors, little circular mirrors that people use to make art, and just get some double-sided tape and stick it on your reflective surface, and then take a laser pointer, put it where the speaker is, and aim it at the mirror on the surface, and then tilt your piece of plywood or whatever you're going to use, drywall, turn it until the laser beam hits the diffuser, and it's nowhere near your mix position where your chair is, and you're done. Do the same for the ceiling.
Now, how do you do that with two speakers? You'd have two lasers that you'd have to make sure both laser points hit the reflective surface and go in?
What you'll find, the speaker closest to the wall, you don't need to deal with.
Because it's pointing the other way.
No, think of like something that would hit, a laser that would hit a mirror at a grazing angle. Where's angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. So if you hit that mirror at a grazing angle, the reflection's coming off at a grazing angle. It's already going to the back of the room.
Okay. So you want to be dealing for this.
If you're coming from across the room to that wall, now you're hitting it almost at 90 degrees, and it's going to want to come right back at you.
So the speaker on this side of your desk, you need to be pointing it towards a mirror on the reflector on this side of the room.
Wait. Let's look at you as if you're sitting at the console. There we go. So your speakers are where your elbows are right now in
Yeah.
the frame. Yeah, where your left arm is, it's going to want to go to the right wall.
Right. So this speaker you need to point the laser towards this wall. This speaker, you'd point the laser towards that wall.
Yes.
With mirrors.
Yes.
And you just want to angle that reflective device so that it points it into the diffuser in the back of the room.
Yes. And I'd start with maybe 2 foot wide or even 1 foot wide columns. I guess I'd call them vertical members. I would keep them like between 1 and 2 feet, maybe 1.5 feet wide.
Right, and that's why I'm going to go to your screen here.
Oh, that's
why
screen.
Whenever you look, well, actually, the one that is,
you know what? The very first screen is a drawing. Let's go to that.
Well, I hate drawings.
No.
Just let me show you something real quick. This right here, when you look here, that's why these aren't one giant piece, because this reading reflection differs, and then you say, "Oh, I can't correct it. Let me put a new piece in and start over." And then, okay, it's starting to get messy. Let's put a new piece in and start over. So one angled wall here wouldn't do the trick because one angle wasn't going to work for that whole distance.
Well, here's why. That rear one. Okay, what you'll find, remember, the more you become a grazing angle, the more it's the reflection off of it is going to the rear wall anyway. That's why we quit there. There's drywall right there above your 2 effects racks, because when you hit that wall, the angle off of it goes to the rear wall automatically.
Okay.
Because of.
And what they can't see in this picture is this one's really angled. This one's a little less angled. This one's even less angled.
Yes. Yeah. Because as you get toward the rear of the room, your speakers are hitting that wall at a grazing angle. Go back one more time.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, this is good,
I was
man.
going to explain why we have 3 and not 1.
Oh, I thought I just did that. Go ahead.
You didn't necessarily. So that last panel has to end where it ends, because anything more forward that would have been parallel would have came back to the mix position. But if you take that all the way to the left, it comes way into the room. Like
right.
you need to back up and start over and back up and start over. If you just did one sheet, you'd have to have your room twice as wide.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I get it.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea is these columns, whenever people put them in their bedroom, they need to keep them to 1 foot to 2 foot, because the less width that is happening in the room, once the room walls come in, you need more of those angles because you've got a smaller space. But if you were in a football field, you could have one angle way on the outside and get it all into the diffuser. So you're saying keep them about, for the size of a regular bedroom, you'd keep them about 1 foot to 2 foot, and then you need to keep adjusting that angle.
I think in a bedroom, make them 1 foot wide.
1 foot. And then you're able to
or maybe 16 inches. So
you're able to get all that with these mirrors to point sound to the back. And what you're essentially doing is taking that part of the room out of it. You're not absorbing it so it loses energy, and you're starting to think, my mix isn't as exciting as it should be, right? The absorption would do that. The pointing of it sends it back into that diffuser. And when it comes back to you, your brain's like, okay, the energy's still there, but I'm going to ignore that. I'm not going to say that's original signal. And ideally, what you're doing is the diffuser in the back of the room ends up being like a giant air filter, right? Mm-hmm. It's taking everything for your ears. It's an ear filter where it just is like, it's hitting that, and then it's making it okay. You're able to make critical decisions from the monitors more.
Now go to that front drawing real quick. Mm-hmm. Okay. Notice there's the, critical listening position, the control room chair. And then we've angled the first 2. We only needed 2 in this room because it was a wider room. And we could use wider panels. Mm-hmm. So we only needed 2. And they encroach way more into the room because there's only 2. So if your room was small, they might encroach all the way to touch your elbows. But in a big wide room, we can go with, I think those are 3 foot in length. Yeah, because
this would be absorption here, right, Greg?
Oh yeah.
That would be absorption there. Yeah. So you have one reflective. You've got speakers here and here on these 2 axes, And then sound comes out, hits the first one from this speaker would go to here.
From the left speaker to the right wall.
From this into this in here. And this goes into here and dies because it's absorption. Same with this.
Yeah. The front of those are absorption. And those are 3 feet, because if you look at the doors are 3 feet. A standard door is 36 inches. So you can see that those panels are the same width as the door into the room.
Okay. So we've got a situation now where we're in our house and we've now talked about these guys pointing back.
But also watch where they end. So if you take a line from the left speaker go to the doors in the way on that side. Go from the right speaker to the left wall, and you hit the wall where the wall is just a wall and not a reflector.
There?
No, back down at the back of the room where it's just a flat wall.
Here.
If you took a straight line from the speaker to that wall,
you
could see angle of incidence equals angle of reflection, and just the flat wall itself is going to the diffusers.
I see it.
You don't need to put a reflector there.
Got it.
And you can determine that with the mirrors and the laser. So what you do, I think the first thing when you go in your room, before you bring your piece of drywall or plywood or whatever, you just put the mirrors on the wall and move them and find out where in the room just the straight wall of the room is missing the mix position and going to the rear. And then you know that you don't have to do anything from that point beyond. You have to do from that point to the front of the room.
Okay. I think we got the reflection aspect of it, right?
Look on the left and right of the diffusers. We filled that whole corner with absorption.
Here?
In the rear. Yeah, we filled the whole corner with absorption because the corners are where all your bass builds up. If you can absorb the corners, you've just made the room more linear, even in the center of the room. It smooths out all your room modes.
Gotcha. So is this a bass trap here?
It is.
Okay. And what's the difference between a bass trap and an absorber? I know they're one and the same, but
is there a zoom? Yeah. Where's the zoom on here?
This?
Yeah, there. Keep going. And then,
I'm having redraw issues at a certain point.
Okay.
It won't let me go past this. All right. So,
what I was going to show you, there's 2 layers of absorption on the leading edge. It's Owens Corning 703 on the front, and then sandwiched right behind it is 703 FRK, which has the foil.
Right.
And then behind that is just regular Pink Panther insulation, because it's way less expensive.
So real quick, 703 is a rigid fiberglass that's 2 inches thick by 2 foot across by 4 foot. That's what you see in all the studios that they usually cover with some sort of fabric. So 703, what he's talking about is just the regular stuff you see, the rigid fiberglass, 2 by 4 by 2 inch. And then the FRK it's lined with foil, and that membrane causes more dampening, lower frequencies. Yes?
It's a diaphragmatic absorber.
So once you add that into the mix, in the spacings of that, you can capture lower and lower frequencies.
Yeah, if you want to go to that graph.
Yeah, let me go to it.
But what I've done here is I took the whole 700 series by Owens Corning and graphed them all because I wanted to see what the difference was. You could look at all the specs and it's hard to get your head around it, but if you graph it, it's easy. So that magenta, lavender almost line is the 703, and that's why everybody uses it. Look at the absorption coefficient is on the left. A 1 means it absorbs 100% of everything that hits it, and a 0 means it reflects everything. You're going to say, well, how does it absorb more than 100% of what hits it? It goes above 100. It goes above 1. That's because it's 2 inches thick, and sound can hit the sides and the top and bottom. and those sides and top and bottom absorb more. So whatever hits the front of it, the front surface is 100%. And then if you add the sides and top.
All right. So we're looking down the side here. You see 703, which is a popular one, right? And this is the 703 FRK, which you're talking about,
which has a foil face.
So we're looking at this baby blue line and this sort of pink.
Notice the foil face now, what it does to your high frequencies. It's starting to reflect them all. And the higher and higher you go, the more it's reflecting those frequencies because it's foil.
Right.
But look what it does for the sub bass. This chart only, their chart only went down to 125, but you could see which way it's trending. If you went down to 100,
yeah, here we go. It's going back up.
Yeah, and if you went down to 100 or 80, it's going to be higher yet.
Okay.
Because the foil is what's doing the absorption at that point, not the fiberglass.
So you're using these in combination with one another. So your first facing edge that would see the room would be this 703.
Which absorbs 100% all the way out to 20K.
Right. And then your second sandwiched onto that would be 703 FRK, which is this baby blue one.
Yeah,
right.
And aluminum foil is not a very good absorber in the high frequencies, but it's super good in the sub. So
those paired together, you're still going to get this amount of reduction. So it almost, your high end doesn't even matter because it's audio is first going to hit your 703.
And all your highs are going to disappear.
Right. So this doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter that that's reflecting because it's behind that.
Yeah. And then when the low frequencies come in, you sort of are following this until you get to here, and then it gets
all your low frequencies are going to go right through that 703 as if it doesn't even exist. Look at it.
But under it will be caught by this FRK.
125 at 125, that fiberglass is non-existent.
80% of your signals coming back to you at 125.
Yeah, so it's not even there, and that's when that aluminum foil kicks in. And I wish they would have done the lab, tests all the way down, but they didn't. They quit at 125.
Well, this looks like it's trending that it would even keep going.
Up, yeah, and it's going to absorb more and more the lower and lower.
So in other words, you use that 703 to get rid of all the normal stuff, and then all the subwoofer stuff or sub stuff is going to be then controlled by this FRK, the second layer that won't be seen. It's sandwiched behind it. Is there any space, or is it right up against the 703?
These charts are for right on the hard surface. So if you move it off of the hard surface, all that whole graph's going to move up. You're gonna go from 60% absorptive. You're going to go up to 80 or 100% just by moving it off the wall.
So you're talking about like, okay, rather than sandwiching them together, that foil on the front of the 703 FRK.
No, you can sandwich them together, but leave the whole thing off the wall, like in the drawing that we did.
Okay, but what I'm saying is those two sandwiched together and then that up against the wall is what we're seeing here.
On that graph, because that's how they did the lab report.
If you decide to put some space behind that, you now have even lower frequency absorption, right? The air gap between them will become a bass trap. Yes?
Yes. And a greater absorption coefficient as well, in addition to lower frequency.
Now, you were telling me that every corner should have a bass trap. Wasn't that what you said to me? It's like there's no reason not to put a bass trap in a corner.
You bet. That's where all the bass builds up. And if you can get rid of it in the corners, you're actually getting rid of the null in the center of the room.
Is there any version of that where you end up with less low end in the middle, like that you would need, where you'd be like, oh, there's too many bass traps in a room? Because your speakers will still produce it, but at your listening position, could you take it away too much?
Watch. Remember that the null in the center of the room is inverse to the bass at the walls. So the more you get rid of in those corners, the smaller your null is, and you get more bass in the middle.
Okay, but will it stop at zero? Is there like a point of too much bass traps is my question. My brain's
no. It
will just end at zero. It will eventually get to zero and not go above it.
Right.
Okay, so that's great for me to know, because I was thinking, well, what if you put bass traps in a room and then you're like mixing in that room, where you get to the point where you're like, there's not enough low end in the room, but you're telling me once it gets to the point where it reaches zero, it won't go.
If you want to have perfectly, try this sometime on your synthesizer. Just start playing chromatically, down like B, B flat, A, A flat, G, just do. And as you go all the way down, you're going to hear one note being way louder than another note. What you're doing is when you hit the resonant frequencies of the room, it's going to be louder. Or if you're in the middle and you hit a null, you're going, why doesn't that note play when I hit it? I can hardly hear it, and then the next note's really loud. Bass traps are going to linearize all that. All your notes are going to be the same volume.
That's good to know. That's huge because I didn't know that. A lot of the stuff we're talking about, I have a little bit of a grasp on. Yeah. But I was always fearful, well, maybe I would hate to do bass traps without actually measuring stuff. But you're telling us that it will only get you to 0.
So that studio in the drawing was the first control room in the photos. Mm-hmm. If you want to show them so that they know what they were looking at.
Yeah, let me look here.
And that in the live room in that drawing, the live room was that live room you were in.
So this control room A
is that, mm-hmm. And the live room on that drawing is this. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Believe it or not, because they had so much ceiling height, the ceiling height in the raw structure of this empty building was the same height in the live room as the control room, but I didn't need all the height in the control room.
Right.
So above these slanted wood panels in the control room,
these guys, yeah,
is a giant cavity above it.
Yeah, this would be up in this area here.
Oh no, that even further down, the ceiling in the control room is lower than that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the ceiling in the control room. So all above it.
This area up in here.
Yeah.
What do you have up in there?
I used it as a giant bass trap. The whole room is a bass trap. The side walls are bass traps. The rear walls are bass traps. The whole room is a bass trap, which gave that room the most linear bass response of all time.
Gotcha. So this is good to know. So let's take this back away from the beautiful looking room like this and into our little world. You would put bass traps in your front 2 corners and your back 2 corners?
Yes.
Okay. And how much space would that? How much space does that take up? Let's say if you're gonna go and you're gonna make the corner of your room like your bass trap. Say if this is the room, would it be this far into the room? How much space from the corner in do you need to create a bass trap?
Here you go. The bigger the triangle, the lower the cutoff frequency is of your bass trap.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it will trap frequencies down to 125 hertz, or it will trap frequencies down to 80 hertz.
Yeah, or keep going. Make it bigger and bigger. It'll
give me an idea though. In a regular room, like 12 by 18 foot room, 12 by 16 foot room, what would be a usual length from corner to face, from the corner of the room to how far into the room? What's a normal distance from here to here that you would see in a room like that?
To absorb 100%, you need to absorb 1/4 of the wavelength. When you absorb 1/4 of the wavelength, the wave disappears. It can't sustain itself. So you just look on the internet at wavelengths in air or sound wavelengths, either way. Because a lot of times if you look at wavelengths, they'll give you RF, radio frequency wavelengths, which travel at the speed of light. So those wavelengths are really long. But when you're traveling slow in air, the wavelengths are shorter.
Speed of sound you need, not speed of light.
No, RF is speed of light. So if you look up wavelengths calculator on the internet, make sure it's not an RF wavelength.
What should it be if not RF?
RF radio frequency wavelengths. I'm saying like from a cell tower.
I get it, but what should they be selecting? What is the
audio or sound in air? Air, yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know. Is there like a what is the official? So when people are looking it up, what would they call?
Why don't you look it up right now? Let's do it together. Everybody can do it with us.
I can't do it.
You can't go on the internet.
Let me look here.
We're on the internet. We are on the internet.
All right. So let me go here. All right.
Go to just Google. Yeah.
All right. What am I looking for?
Wavelength calculator. Sound. Oh.
Sound?
See, RF came up right away. Did you see the first one's RF?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it for sound frequency, and wavelength calculator?
Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah. Go to the bottom one.
All right. So give me a number to put in here. What am I looking for? Frequency? Like if I want to say, hey, 100 hertz, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's absorb 100 hertz.
100 hertz. And what do I need to know here?
Just calculate. Calculate.
All right.
Oh, wait. Change the arrow on meters per second to feet. No, down. No, wrong window. There, down. Yeah, that one.
This one?
Yeah.
Foot per second?
Yep.
All right.
Calculate.
Okay. 1,125 foot per second. Okay. What's the numbers here that mean something?
Oh, wait. You know what? Yeah, that'll work. We
Look
need
at this.
to change meters to feet as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Calculate.
It already calculated, I think.
Yeah, it does it in real time.
Yeah.
So what is this telling us?
It's telling you that the wavelength of 100 hertz wave is 11 feet.
Okay, so 25% of 11 foot.
Yeah, just divided by 4.
Yeah.
Wait, might as well do it to the decimal. 11,
It's about two almost 3 foot.
divided by 4.
So you need a 3 foot from
2.8 feet. You know?
from leading edge to corner. You need 2.8 feet to do it. And isn't this interesting? Look, this is 20 degrees Celsius. So it changes with temperature.
Yeah, and altitude. So
that's
all you
crazy.
people in Denver, Colorado, it's different.
Okay, well, this is great. This is great.
And that's for 100% absorption. So if you only wanted 80% or 60% absorption, which you'd be happy with, you can be less than 8 feet.
Less than 8 feet.
All
right,
was it 8? Is that what I said? Yeah.
It was 2.8 feet.
Or 2.8 feet. Yeah, you could be
2.8
less than that. You could be at 1 foot.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is great. Okay, so this is I've learned something here with the bass trap. So what else are we talking about at this point in regards to getting your room up and listenable? Is there anything else? Have we done it?
Well, what we did to the sidewalls is the exact same thing we need to do to the ceiling. Put mirrors on the ceiling and find out how far back in the room you have to go before that reflection off the speaker no longer hits your head.
Right.
So you're going to need someone. You're going to need to stand something in there vertically at the listening position that represents people's head, so that you know that you shot over their head.
Yeah. And keep in mind that all these walls that are tilted need to have absorption around the back of them, right? They need to be absorbed.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want resonance behind these tilted enclosures.
What else have we what else is there to cover? I think this might be it.
I think we did it. Because if you look at that drawing in those fancy studios, everything we talked about doing in your bedroom is everything we would have done in a big major.
And all this can be done
studio, So
all this can be done with equipment or with gear bought from Home Depot or Lowe's.
Oh yeah, like what we did for millions of dollars.
Right.
You can do in your bedroom for under $100.
I love that aspect of it. It's like you can turn any room into a listenable thing. First of all, use your brain. Set yourself up for success by going to the easiest part of the room where it's most likely good to sound. 4 spots usually in any room. And then start dealing with the 3 different things: absorption, reflection, and diffusion. Mm-hmm. And then just follow this process. It's whenever we talk through this, there's a clarity that when you were talking, it's like our conversation had this clarity of like a punch list. Let's go to this next thing. Okay, let's point it towards here. Okay, let's make this stuff absorptive. Let's make this stuff reflective. Let's make this stuff diffused. Awesome, dude. I think this is a great tool. People don't get to know this stuff. How often do they get you to tell them this stuff? They don't have access to guys like you. So thank you very much for all the insight. I guess if you're looking to have, Gregg does build outs from multi-million-dollar facilities to private rooms. So if you're looking to have a real, designed room, tracking and or control room, we'll put up his website. You have a website, Gregg?
I don't, and it's on purpose.
Okay, but we have some point of contact for you, like an email or something you want to share?
You have my email. Yeah, I put my email up. That's fine.
Okay.
The reason I don't have a website, I'm hiding.
From?
I can't have any more business.
Then you want me to not post your...
Wait, you're the one that said when everyone asks you to do something, you always say yes, right?
Yeah.
You told me that was the very first thing you learned.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for me when someone presents something awesome to me, for me to say, you know what, I just don't have availability. I can't do it. So I just hide.
That's the nicest way I've ever heard somebody turn down work. So I will not put up your email address.
Yeah, no, you can put it up. But
are you sure?
I just don't want a website where everyone's searching and finding, like where I have all these people.
Okay, so you don't mind like sort of context.
See how gray my beard is? That's how old I am, and I just don't want to work like all night long.
You need to buy a bucket of paint and some spackle and paint that piece of
drywall
behind you. It's the worst background I've ever seen.
It's got there's printing on it, and there's little X's that tell you where to put the screws.
It's like you're getting a passport photo.
You get to a point where there's certain things you don't care about as much. Yeah.
Well, hey, dude, thank you.
This is my office I built.
We've been talking here. My timer says about an hour and a half at least, because we had a little bit of pre-roll there, but an hour and a half seemed to fly right by. We might have to make this 2 episodes depending on, the length of it, the final product. But
if you want to make it another episode, I've got a ton of like reflection drawings and reflection studies in color that show you all that laser mirror stuff in a drawing, so that we don't have to imagine it in our head.
Maybe I'll gather some of that and put up like a resource folder on Dropbox so people will be able to access for this.
You could do that. Yeah. All right.
So thank you for coming on, and thank you for being a great mentor to me. I appreciate that. I know I've thanked you a bunch of times, but I don't think anybody can be thanked too many times. I appreciate all the guidance you gave me when I didn't deserve it and set me on my course here. So I appreciate that. And thank you for being so free with your information. Like, this is like shareware. What's inside your head is like, you don't have to share this information. This is like really life-changing for these mix engineers to be able to get a room together. It's not that difficult. We had some scientific talk today, but I think we adequately described everything from early reflections and diffusion. I think if you dig into this podcast, you can understand and metabolize this podcast. You could do this to your room from just what we talked about. I think we did a pretty good job of distilling it.
And once you hear one of these rooms, you can never go back. Good. It's just too wonderful. Yeah. Well,
thank you, dude. You're the best.
They'll love it if they do it.
I miss Mikey not being here. And he missed all this, but I'm sure he'll watch it. I want to thank you, Bud, for coming on and being a good soul. That's it. Signing off this week from the West Barn. Thanks for tuning in.